Yes, I do. And it's not historically accurate. In my introductions, I'm like, hey, this is based on this. It's inspired by these events. There are some, like the main villain, King Cyrus, I changed the word a little bit. It's Babylon. Uh, but I call them the Babylonians. I change a few things for my funsies. And King Cyrus did not exist he was about 100 years off. But I wanted to use King Cyrus, so there. But it is strongly based on the ancient Etruscans and specifically the end of their empire. But the ancient Etruscans in my world were completely human, just not humans. They were a magical race.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, sponsored by pizza, I guess we're going to say today, because both my guest and myself, avid pizza lovers. And my guest has fancy pizza. I'm a little more basic, but we're still friends, and we're still going to get on here and talk about great stories and the author journey, all those good stuff. You know what we do here. And Hollis is here with me, and not only is she here with me for this, but I'm going to try to convince her to come back to the How to Podcast series as well. That's another podcast to have her on. That'll be fun. But Hollis is here, everybody. You're going to love her. You're going to love. She got a lot of books. She wins a lot of awards. And it's someone you need to meet and someone you need to know. So Hollis, welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dave. Yeah. Hello, everybody. And yes, and fancy pizza, I mean, it has its place, but I do go basic every now and again.
Do you? Okay. All right. Okay.
I like both. I just happen to have fancy pizza today.
Fancy pizza today. All right. All right. So if you're a pizza company and you're looking to sponsor somebody, you could sponsor Hollis, and she'd love to take your money.
Very interested.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Free, send her donations, send her, she'll taste test, she'll write a review, whatever you like.
Yep.
She'll do it.
Yeah. So interested. Yeah. Thank you. That is the money or not even the money. That is just what I need. That's I will work for free food. Let's
work for free. I like it. Hollis, where are you? Where do you live?
So I am in Georgia, in the metro Atlanta area, kind of north of Atlanta, in a town or a city, small city called Suwanee.
That's a nice name, Suwanee.
Yeah,
Are there
it's Native
swans
American.
in Suwanee?
Huh?
Are there swans in Suwanee?
Maybe in some of the parks. Not that I've noticed, though. I like to walk around a lot. We have a lovely greenway that I actually can just walk out my front door and be on, and within a moment or two, nice. That goes all throughout with lots of mileage of biking trails through the woods and stuff. So
nice.
I'll check for swans next time.
Get back to me on that, okay? I'd like to know.
I'll let you know. Yeah,
inquiring minds want to know. Yeah. Good. Let's start with your author journey, because we have authors who listen to the show, and I love to honor them and encourage them. But I can't do a good job at that because I've never written a book, so you can do it. If there was a podcast or a conversation that you overheard where an author was talking about their journey when you started yours, what would have been helpful to hear from someone further down the path that could have helped you early on in your journey? So let's help that person by kind of retelling and sharing what would have helped you.
Don't be discouraged, I think, is the number one piece of advice all authors, especially authors just beginning on your journey, because frankly, rejection is part of the game. And just because one person doesn't like your book, it doesn't mean that, not all books are for everyone. That's why we have so many different authors, so many different genres. Someone else kind of goes, meh. Another person might go, this is my most favorite book that I've ever read, ever. I've read it 12 times. So, don't be discouraged. Write your story. Be true to yourself. That's the most important thing, because especially some people might tell you, you've got to follow trends, or you got to do X, Y. This is what the people want. It's no, that doesn't matter, because it's not going to be good unless it's authentic.
Yeah. The whole idea of finding your voice as an author, what does that mean for you, and how did you do that?
Okay, well, I was born with an obscene amount of confidence.
And pizza.
I like to joke that I steal the joke from oh my gosh, what's her last name? Catherine Ryan, the comedian Catherine Ryan. She's Canadian, actually.
Ta-da!
Yeah, but she lives in the UK, but she has a joke that she was born with the confidence of an 89-year-old man, and I'm like, oh yeah, me. Oh yeah, same Catherine.
I love it.
and, and so confidence goes a long way. And if you don't come by it naturally, you can fake that. That's fine. Like it's okay to smile, but the truest thing is just writing for yourself. I think is the most valuable thing and the most because a lot of people my husband actually like he's not an author but he lives with one. So he's very creative. So he just last night was asking me, "Hey, has anyone ever written a book about like this thing? Has this ever been, explored?" And it was something that was explored, but well, and in genres that he didn't really read. And I said, "Oh yeah, that's been done a lot, but it's never been done by you." So if you want to write something, if you have an idea, just sit your butt in a chair and get out whatever writing utensil. I'm a hand writer for my first drafts, but a lot of people computer it and just butt in chair and start writing, and that's the best thing you can do for yourself.
As a young writer starting out, who inspired you? Who did you love to read? Kind of get a little taste of your past.
So I was one of those kids who I went straight from like the kiddie books, your little like golden reader books, and to like adult fantasy novels. I mean, like
really?
not sexually adult, but like not written for not YA. I skipped YA entirely because it didn't interest me. I honestly I just did. So I went at the age of 11. I started reading the Dragonlance series, which was published in the 80s. It's a huge like fantasy series, and it they've created this world. It's Margaret Weissing Tracy Hickman wrote the first trilogy, The Chronicles, is about the Dragonlance Wars and all the. I'm very, very into it still. And my favorite book crush is still Tanis Half-Elven, who was one of the main characters. And I stand by that. 11-year-old me knew it was up. I've reread them so many times, and yeah, Tanis, great all-around guy. So yeah, that definitely just hugely inspired me as an author. Honestly, inspired by Jane Austen. Not so much the content of her stories, because I obviously don't write historical fiction in that particular context or things like that, but just the way she uses the English language is so beautiful. She really was an artist with words, and I love her prose. I love her use of language and how she insults people sometimes. She's really clever and she's really gorgeous with it. And so yeah, there are of course so many authors that inspire me, but those are probably, as far as young me is concerned, like the preteen and teenage Hollis. It was a lot of Dragonlance novels and some Jane Austen and things like that.
One of the things I hear authors talk about, which I didn't really understand as a reader, was when you sit down with an editor or a company that's going to help you publish your book, one of the things they ask you is your comps for your books, like how it's going to, what shelf it's going to sit on and what book it's going to sit on next to. I never even realized that was a thing until, I guess, when you walk in the store, you realize all the category headings around the room. Yeah, that makes sense. But when you think of comps for your books, is there somebody that you try to be on the same shelf next to? What do you think?
I still want to be on the same shelf with Dragonlance books, even though they're not so popular anymore. Dreams can come true. That's the dream. But honestly, there's Temi Afewalde. She I'm getting on my Audible so I can look at the name of the book. Sorry for that. The Blood and Bone series, or the first book is. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I actually really love how she, a female author, and she did like it was a lot of and I apologize, I'm not looking at the
That's
screen,
right.
but
I threw that
she did
question at you with no prep by everyone listening. There was no prep for that one. So yeah.
yeah. And I know her first name is Temi, and I'm like, and I want to pronounce her last name correctly, so I'm I'm searching for it. But oh, here we go. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi.
Hmm.
I believe she's Nigerian,
Yeah, okay.
or is, Nigerian American. And it's a African fantasy. It's set in an African style fantasy world, which is really fun and, just like a whole new exploration for most fantasy readers because most authors don't go in that direction, or at least not most popular authors. And
Yeah.
it's a very well told story of coming to be and self-realization with magic.
Hmm.
And I do hope that I know we're the same genre. We're both dark fantasy, and we do have a
Yeah.
lot of similar tropes that we like to use and tellings and things like that. And I really love how she talks about the familial relationships. The main character is really close with her brother, for example, and I have a close relationship with my brother, which is important to me as a human. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I would love to be on the shelf next to Tommy.
Okay. I know you've talked about this on other podcasts, but what makes a dark fantasy a dark fantasy?
So people have different definitions of dark. I
Okay.
didn't realize I was dark until I was told often enough that I was. Um, so I accept it is fine.
Thank you.
I think a lot of it has to do, in my case, the dark part comes a little bit more with themes. I'm
Okay.
not very graphic, or at least not my Rashan series is not terribly graphic. There are fights and things like that, and the characters get together, but we don't go blah blah blow with any of
Yeah.
that. We just are fade to black a little bit, and that's fine. But the themes are darker. The stakes are maybe a little heavier in a lot of ways, and maybe have a horror lean. I do have a character that's a werewolf.
Hmm.
And it's not in the most classic traditional way. I obviously write them in my own idiom, but uh yeah, I think it has to do with theme in my case. And I've been told by I have a friend of mine who she's in her early 50s, and when she read the second book of my Rashan series, The Queen Witch, she called me on the phone, and she after she'd read the chapter with the fight with the main villain, the Queen Witch, and and she said, "Hollis, you gave me nightmares. I'm mad at you."
Oh no.
And it was like, sorry, but also thank you.
Yeah. It's a compliment.
and
Wow.
and she's not a shrinking violet of a person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I lean a little dark. And then my historical fantasy series, that one is dark because of I'm honest about history. It is fantasy, but my degree is in world history with the specialization in the ancient Etruscans and medieval England, and I'm really honest about history and how people behaved during war, and
Mm.
especially in the ancient world, and I've yeah, people have very visceral reactions to Spare the Swallow, which is excellent as an author. But also maybe I should I had my one of my other friends who read it and threw it against the wall a couple of times while she was reading it, apparently, tell me that I needed to like have swag that was like those little tissue packets that were just branded with Lost Beacon Chronicles. She was like, you
Oh
need Lost
no
Beacon
way.
Chronicles tissue packets. Sell it with the books.
When you're writing the book, did you throw your book at the wall like that or no?
I did make myself cry a few times, and
Oh no.
there was particularly in Spare the Swallow, which this one right here. I have my books in
Yeah,
front of
very
me.
nice. Of
I
course.
came prepared. Uh,
Yes.
there's a scene where the main villain is assaulting a not one of the main characters, but that there's an assault, and I because of what's happening during the assault, I do have to describe it for the purposes of plot and for the purposes of expressing how psychopathically evil this particular villain is. And yeah, I needed to shower after I wrote that chapter. And my mother, who is my editor, when she
Oh,
read it, she called me and she went, Hollis Jo McCollum. I got middle named.
oh, middle
Um,
named. Yikes.
yeah, it's okay. She, I told her, I was like, well, I know, Mom, it was weird, but it was, I mean, you had the reaction though. And she said, yes, I'm glad you're not like that. I just don't like that it came out of your head.
What? So your mom is an editor. How does that relationship work?
She's not an editor. She's actually a retired nurse. She's a
Oh,
retired registered nurse
okay.
who would have become an English teacher if she didn't go into nursing. She,
Oh, okay.
obviously when she's in her 20s and in college, she had a choice. And uh, but she's a very avid reader. I mean, this woman she reads so quickly and so thoroughly at the same time. It still astounds me. I'm very
Nice.
impressed.
Nice.
But she she just and I trust her, and she also knows how to give me criticism the way
Right.
that I will number one fully understand what she means,
Yeah.
and number two that like in the most productive way, just because she's my mother. Like, and I take criticism well, but because she knows how to communicate with me on a very high
Right.
level, she can she can do it just more effectively than other people. But she honestly is a fantastic editor.
Nice.
And I just originally I gave her, the first copy or the first when I wrote To Save a World, the very first book I wrote, I just sent it to her because she wanted to read it. And she read it and she said, honey, I have some thoughts. And so that first book, I said, oh, okay, well, tell me your thoughts. And so I went it. And then when we were going through the process, I said, Mom, you're a really fantastic editor. So here we are.
Nice. That's nice. I think that's another secret sauce for authors listening is to find those people you trust to share your work with. I think it's a little bit intimidating to hand your book over to a stranger that you don't really know and go, I'm trusting you with my baby here. And I hope that whoever gets this is going to respect it and not steal my idea or share it or whatever, right? There's a little bit of trust
There's a lot
when
of
you hand your book
trust.
over, right?
Right. Well, and then so I have another friend, Bob Magoo. He's one of the authors for Falstaff Press. Writes wonderful fantasy novels about a meth addicted wizard with a possum familiar. Who I love Bob. Um, but he famously among our author community has a story that he's very Southern. Bob is from Alabama, and he writes his characters are Southern, and they speak in an American Southern idiom, and they speak with those weird little slang term, all those things, and and that's something you have to have the right editor for.
Right.
His very first book, the editor he happened to hire was a British woman who knew nothing of American Southern slang, particularly Alabama slang, because I personally am not a Southerner, but I've lived down in the American South long enough to tell you that every region of the South has a different type of slang as well.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's all a lot. um, and she just kept sending him, and he said it was the longest editing process of my life, and she was a great editor, but she wasn't the right editor for me because she
Mm.
didn't get any of my crazy words. And yeah, she kept trying to correct me about about this phrasing. And he said, no, I know it's grammatically the most incorrect thing you can say, but this is what people in Montgomery, Alabama say. And that's,
Interesting.
yeah. So it's
Okay.
really important to find somebody who, not only you get along with and who can communicate, edits to you effectively,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also just somebody who gets your your writing and who understands what sort of region you're writing for, even if it is a fantasy novel. You might I tend to lean a little more like North Atlantic to British in my writing style as far as
Really?
grammar and everything is concerned.
Okay.
And so I would never choose a Southern editor. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be, for me as a non-author trying to figure out the process. Again, it feels a little intimidating to hand your stuff over to somebody. It's not done, but it's done enough. And then I would just be nervous that somebody would want to change my voice or change how I write, use words that I would never use. Somebody who knows me read an edited version of my book and go, that doesn't sound like you, Dave. You don't talk like that. You don't use those words, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't. My editor does, but I don't, right? So,
Well, and that's part of the and that's why it's important to talk to your editors
yeah,
before you hire them, I think. And that's why I'm really, really fortunate that my mom is my editor, because she definitely gets me. She made me. She gets
yeah.
she gets it. But it's also, yeah, it's just you do just want it to be your voice. And that's honestly, while you were saying that, I'm thinking that's one of the beauties of being an indie author, is being independent. Because you don't have a publisher demanding this, that, and the other, or the publisher is the one who holds the rights to your book. And so they can just say, we can do what we want, and you have your check for money. So you sit down over there.
We'll take it from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like submitting your book as a movie then. It's like, thanks for the book. Nice reference, but we're going to go make a movie now. It's like, well, that's not what I put in my book, but it's in the movie. Right. So anyway, yeah.
They're like, it wasn't cool enough. We need more cool. And
we need more cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So let's run through the books. You got them in front of you. You've already showed us one, but let's go through these. And how do you want to start? You want to show us, like, what do you have, like, your first book in front of you? Like, where do you want to begin?
Sure. So I've got To Save a World was the first book that I ever published. It is thick, but I promise it goes fast. Yeah, I put a lot of graphics in it, though. I do.
Good.
There are pictures in here, so
nice.
So it's not all just words. But this one, right now, actually, To Save a World, I have a promotion running for the ebook of this on Amazon. It's $1.99.
Wow.
And it will be $1.99 until the end of November. December 1st, it goes back to the $9.99 ebook price, but on Amazon it's $1.99 because I felt like running a promo. So
nice.
Yeah.
So give us an overview for the story on that one. Like, what's the reader going to get out of this one?
So this is actually, I'll read the first 3 lines here because I feel I'm not great at pitching.
Good.
A world in ruins, a forbidden attraction, a prophecy that will bring them to their knees.
Ooh.
It's post-apocalyptic fantasy, and this is chapter 1 stuff, so I'm not spoiling for you, but the gods had a heavenly war, and they killed each other. And the world of Rashan, which is why the series is the Rashan series, has no governance any longer. So you have people are dying all over the place because the weather is wrong, because mountain ranges popped up overnight during the Heavenly Wars, because whirlpools happened and islands were swallowed and volcanoes were erupting. And now the seasons don't make any sense because there's no higher power governance. So you could be a blizzard in the morning and sweltering summer heat in the afternoon, and that means your crops aren't growing.
Right.
So yeah, it's not good. And the characters originally set out to just help their community. They don't have these grand designs on saving the world, but there's a legendary stone called the Stone of Elysius that an ancient wizard apparently imbued all of his powers into this very large lump of quartz. And legend says it was hidden in this one place and everything, and they're just like, we have to do something. Let's go see if we can find it. I don't know. And they go off, they do that, and then of course they, meet some new friends along the way and run into a peculiar wizard named Tim who drops a prophecy on their heads and is like, this is you now. Congratulations. And and I named him Tim because I'm a huge Monty Python fan.
There you go. I'm like, what? Why does that sound so familiar? Okay, I got it.
There's some who call me Tim. Yeah.
Tim? Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite films when I was a kid. But so there's To Save a World. That's the first book. And they do something right in To Save a World because they continue on into the second book, which is The Queen Witch. This takes place about 20 years after To Save a World.
Okay.
So my characters are all elves. In my world that I decided, just randomly, elves live for about 700 years. So 20 years to an elf is roughly 3 to 5 years to a human being. It's not much, Yeah. And so the Queen Witch happens 20 years later. The Queen Witch is the name of the main villain, which is an evil fairy, which I was inspired by a very old Scottish mythology story about a fairy called the Queen Witch who steals children. So I
steals kids. Wow.
Yeah, there's children's thievery in this one, and two of the main characters from To Save a World have a daughter, and fairies, darn it, and so that's really fun. And To Save a World has won 2 national awards, by the way. The Queen Witch has won 1. And then Terror in the World, which just won 2 awards in the Bookfest 2026 Fall Awards. I entered it in 2 different categories and it placed in both. So
what?
Yeah. And this one takes place about 5 years after the Queen Witch. Okay. And of course, Rashawn is in peril again. It's, the plight of the
catch a break, right? Yeah.
And they're like, you guys did a great job 2 times in a row. I go for the third. Let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
One more. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. But basically, in my fantasy world, there are different portals that are guarded by the portal guardians, which in my world are unicorns, which is why they're very rare and elusive beasts, because they're magical creatures that are the portal guardians. You can't open the portal without the unicorn, which is a good thing because the portals can lead to some crazy, crazy places. And that's just a safekeeping. So somebody got control of a unicorn and they tore a little hole in the portal to the afterlife. And the afterlife isn't like what we think of as a classic Christian setup, because this is a fantasy world. We don't, subscribe to those things. It doesn't exist in their world. It's just everybody kind of in the same realm in the afterlife, because they're trying to resurrect somebody really evil, of course. But they could only do a tiny little hole. But things are leaking out. Spirits are leaking out, possessing people, causing trouble. And Aram and Jocelyn, who are 2 of the other characters from the original story, you have 4 main characters in To Save a World. They've got to go fix that.
Wow.
And there's Island of Cannibals that the portal is on, and I just threw it was fun. Why not?
There's a lot in here. I love this. It's great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing it, and To Save a World is also based on a D&D game I played with my best friend.
Okay.
And the first episode of my podcast, which when I do that podcast episode with you,
come on,
let's do it, and then I'll tell you more about that. But the first episode of my podcast is my best friend Ashley and I talking about the original game versus the book I wrote, because obviously a lot of things had to change.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. The name of your podcast, for people listening to this podcast, are like, wait a minute, I want to know about her show. You are going to come on and talk about it on another show, but let's talk about your podcast quick before we move on.
Sure. So it's called I Do What I Want. Exclamation
Good name for
point.
a show. I love it.
great catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
And it's on. I do an episode once a month. I just did an episode last night, or yes, last night. Last Sunday of every month, I do an episode on. I go live on YouTube. I just do it live.
Nice.
I'm not an editor. I'm a writer. I'm not an editor. You know, I just yeah, I just go for it, and I obviously have my outlines written, and I just talk about various things. So I try to keep the episodes roughly around 30 minutes. My earlier episodes are longer. It started in 2022, so yeah, my earlier episodes are definitely longer. Sometimes because I just started going down rabbit holes. But yeah, I talk about my writing journey, books, generalized nonsense.
Beautiful. Excellent. We'll have a link for everybody to come check it out as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, but the Rashawn series is my best headlining series. I would say it's the most popular by far, but it's also because it's more palatable. You know, it's definitely dark. It definitely has some. It definitely has romantic subplots. Which To Save a World is the only one where we have the new relationship thing. The other two books are the characters, they already met and fell in love, and like it's actually the continuation of the relationships. So we're talking about married people in the next two books, which I enjoy because the romance doesn't end after marriage, people.
Thank you. Yes.
We still have all sorts of fun things that we enjoy and surprise each other with after marriage. It's not just about the new stuff. Yeah, but Spare the Swallow is the origin story of My Lost Beacon Chronicles, and this one I'd say it's book 0 because I couldn't help myself. This one is historical fantasy, ain't based on. I created a magical race based on the ancient Etruscans of Italy because I'm obsessed with the ancient Etruscans. It's my degree, and I turned them into a fantasy race and kind of did an alternate universe Earth, if you will. And this is about the downfall of the Etruscans, essentially, which was sad because they were genocided.
Okay, so for those people who have no idea who these people are, and you obviously do because you went to school for this, can you give us kind of like a synopsis of like the story behind this group of people? Like, I want to make sure we get people hooked on this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and hooked on history. Hey,
right.
Hey,
hello.
Learning. Yeah,
I've heard of hooked on phonics, but yeah, hooked on history. Let's do that too.
So the Etruscans were a civilization in ancient Italy. They actually were the builders of Rome. They were the Romans were sheep herders before the Etruscans were like, hey, this is a road. And you know, anyway, I got some beef with Rome. But they ruled for it's arguable, but they're as far as we know a completely native peoples to Italy. There's been genetic testing that shows that like Homo sapiens obviously came out of Africa, and Neanderthal. Well, there's a lot of Neanderthal blood. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that, but it's they're the original peoples of the Italian peninsula, and they built in Tuscany is named after the Etruscans. That was their homeland. They had their League of 12 Cities, but they were a very advanced civilization. I would say their high point was probably around like 800 BC was their was probably their peak. They were around for roughly 1,000 years. And they left a very lasting impression. They actually were the ones who they invented the tuba. They invented the
tuba.
They invented the tuba. They invented a lot of things. They invented the like air conditioning of the ancient world, running the waters. You know, the Roman baths. That's Etruscan technology. That's all. They figured a lot of what the Romans claim as theirs was what they learned from the Etruscans. The Etruscans also have a language that it's a totally original language. It's not related to Latin. It's not related to Greek. It's not related to any of them. It's a completely, and the only reason we can translate some ancient Etruscan to this day is because they were heavy. They were great horse breeders. They did a lot with what they were really good at wine. Very educated people. Oh, they invented the gymnasium again. Not the Romans. The Etruscans invented the gymnasium. Pompeii was an Etruscan city. It
Really?
was not a Roman city. I mean, it became part of Rome after the Romans genocided the Etruscans, but it was built by Etruscans. And
Wow.
and so a lot, and Cortona, Montepulciano, pretty much everywhere in Tuscany, Orvieto, those are all Etruscan. And they were very advanced. They actually were equal. They were, men and women were equal.
Come on.
Yeah,
Nice.
ancient world. Them and Sparta got along great because in Sparta, women were equal too. The Athenians were the jerks over in ancient Greece, and what the ancient Greek city-states. They wouldn't even call women people, and women had to wear veils over their faces because they were not human beings in ancient Athens. But in ancient Sparta, women were whole people all to themselves who could do whatever they want and participated with the men. And the ancient Etruscan women were the same. They were equal footing. They participated equal ways, all that other stuff, which I really love. But incidentally was the main point of contention the Romans had with them. So once the Etruscans came and showed Rome how to make fire and built the city of Rome for them, the grid system of Rome, Etruscan layout of a city. So that was all them. And even to this day, what like the hats the popes and the bishops wear and the robes and everything, those were the ancient Etruscan priest robes. That's what the
Really?
Etruscan priests wore. And to this day, the Catholic Church is perpetuating ancient Etruscan fashions of their clergy, which of course worshipped their gods. But those are Etruscan fashions right there.
I love history. I love hearing you talk. You could talk about this all day. I love this stuff.
I could go on, and I probably should stop. But anyway, yeah, the Romans, there were more of them. To long story short, Etruscans were not a large population. They had a lot of stuff that they did, but they were not a big amount of people.
Yeah.
Especially around 500 BC-ish, they 600 to 500. No. They that was right around the time that Rome was like, hey, now that we know how to build things and we have all your recipes for stuff and engineering diagrams, now, because we don't like your culture, because there were a lot of cultural differences, one of the main point of contention, because the ancient Romans, not talking about a little later in Rome, because yes, a lot of Roman empresses did do a lot of very important things, but very early on, they were like the Athenian women. It was like, sit in the house and make babies. You quiet now, no talk. And yeah, and they didn't like that the Etruscan women had every right to walk up to them and say, I'm in charge here. Like, I am the owner of this business, or I am the general of this army, or whatever. And they really didn't like that. And that was one of the main points of contention. They considered they painted the Etruscans as very immoral, as one might say, because the women were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And by Roman standards, because the Etruscans, they didn't actually marry for love, or they married for love. They didn't marry for business, which most marriage, for those of you who don't know, it's only extraordinarily recently in history. We're talking the past 100 years, 150 years at most. It wasn't until Queen Victoria that people started thinking marriage is for love. No. Thousands of years, marriage is for business. You marry that person because they have a lot of land.
Right, land or
money,
farm animals, all kinds of different things, right?
You want to combine some family powers, whatever.
Right.
But marriage wasn't for love. And most common people didn't even go through the ceremony of marriage because it wasn't politically necessary. they would just start living together if they loved each other.
Yeah.
And they would be like, yeah, that's my wife. The end. You know, they didn't need to. And and that made sense. But the Etruscans, they did business in a different way. It's hard for us to kind of like separate now with our modern brains. But they just didn't. Business was business deals, and marriage was not necessary at all. And they were generally much more promiscuous by our standards, because not everybody wants to get married. So it was, marriage was not as common in Etruscan culture. And people would have kids with various other partners and just like, okay, cool. And nobody really cared in their culture, but the Romans found it just deplorable. And which community wise, it worked for them because everybody agreed. You know, the Etruscans all agreed upon, as long as everyone agrees upon the system, cool. And then couples who did just want to be faithful to each other, they were. The end. And but it was one of the main reasons, in my personal opinion. There are other blah 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 reasons that the Romans, who were much greater in number than the Etruscans and had learned some cool battle techniques from the Etruscans, formed their legions and marched and took over. We also don't know a lot about the Etruscan language, because what do conquerors do? They burn. Right. They burn the books. They burned, and they did. They just started burning. And the Etruscans, though highly educated, there was a time in the ancient world where if you were an educated person, you spoke and wrote in Etruscan. It wasn't Latin or Greek. It was Etruscan was the number one language that you had to know if you were educated. But they just, scorched earth that culture as much as possible, to the point where we didn't even know the Etruscan culture existed for a very long time. It's very recent, archaeologically speaking, that we started finding evidence of the ancient Etruscans. And even then, when we first started finding evidence of it, it was originally thought to be just very early Roman. Yeah, so that's...
So you carry this information and this knowledge into your novel then, right?
Yes, I do. And it's not historically accurate. In my introductions, I'm like, hey, this is based on this. It's inspired by these events. There are some, like the main villain, King Cyrus, I changed the word a little bit. It's Babylon. But I call them the Babylonians. I change a few things for my funsies. And King Cyrus did not exist he was about 100 years off. But I wanted to use King Cyrus. So there, but it is strongly based on the ancient Etruscans and specifically the end of their empire. But the ancient Etruscans in my world were completely human, just not humans. They were a magical race.
Wow.
And that was, there are all sorts of reasons why the other ones decided, but getting back to this, so I traumatized the living heck out of the main character, Lucretia, in this book. And then she becomes what is called the Lost Beacon, which is why the series is the Lost Beacon Chronicles. The Docvens, which are the race, they're a magical race that, had magic, but one must remain for magic to be in the world. So she basically, through things I will not tell you why or how, you got to read the book, she's forced to curse herself with immortality. But everything she's ever loved is dead and gone. So she's got to go through some grief cycles. And that's going to take a while. So the next book in the series, Ignited, which is book 1, because this is book 0, and I know it's a little confusing, but I really wanted my origin story to be book 0 because it sounds super cool.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
Yeah, and then, so Ignited is... So this series also takes a spin into the psychological, because I enjoy psychology just for fun. For me, I enjoy academically curious about psychology and I read about it. And Ignited is her journey from the stage of depression into anger for the stages of grief, because the Lost Beacon Chronicles have her going through the stages of grief, which are not linear. As anyone who may have read up on them or has been to therapy knows, you bounce around, you can go in 10 circles, you get back to depression 5 times, who knows. But this one takes place during the Roman conquest of Britain, 43 AD. And she is, you hear the story, she's with the Catavulani, which was the ancient British tribe that were the main fight back against Rome. A lot of the other tribes, like Boudica didn't happen until 60 AD. I know some people are like, what about Boudica? That happened in 60 AD. The original conquest was 43 AD. And the Catavulani were the main tribe that were pushing back against Rome. Lucretia happens to be with the Catavulani at the time, and so this is just kind of my take on that. This one's Lost Beacon Chronicles, much shorter, but this one has also won a national award, and Spare the Swallow, of course, just won one. But I really had a lot of fun writing this, because I often tell people my plots are kind of written for me because they're inspired by real historical events.
Right.
So I just look at what events I want to use, and I'm like, well, I got my milestones.
Yeah.
I know what's happening. and now we just have to weave my fictional characters into it and throw some glitter on it and some magic, and ta-da! But
done.
Yeah, done. But those are they both have 5 stars, which I'm really proud of. But they're also harder reads in the sense that there can be very triggering because of these 2 books so far are war books. We're talking about war. We're talking about fighting. We're talking about people being right but still losing because they're not as strong. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And one that happens over and over and over and over again, historically speaking.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, those are a little tougher to read. I recommend that you are at least 16 years old. Obviously, up to everyone's discretion. I've had a mother with her 14-year-old buy the book for her daughter. But I'm like, I would have read that when I was 14. So that's
true.
You're aware what's in this book, and if you're cool, have that. So, yeah.
It's good. I like having that information, too, for the readers as they're listening, going, who is this for? Who can I buy this for? And that kind of, from author's perspective, that's kind of good to hear that.
Yeah, I always like to tell people, I'll never forget, I was at an event, and there was someone looking at Spare the Swallow, and she had an accent that sounded Bosnian to me. And I'm pretty good at finding accents because I used to be an immigration officer, so I've got a better ear than the average person, and I'm looking at it, and this was a few years ago, and I just went, let me ask you, where are you from? I hear your accent. And she said, oh, I'm from Bosnia. And I said, okay, I need to tell you something about that book you're looking at, especially given recent events in Bosnia. This book has genocide in it, and I don't know if you want to read that. And she went, oh, I don't want to read that. And I said, I had a thought you might not want to, because I was on a refugee visa. She came over as a refugee from that.
Yeah.
So I was like, she was like, oh no. And but she bought To Save a World. She was like, I will try this book. And I said, yes, that book, it's tough for the characters, but you will not be triggered. So there you go.
Nice.
That's for you. And, yeah. Sometimes age, it doesn't matter. Sometimes just your personal experience is like, I really don't want to read about that. I lived it already. No, thank you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I like that. That's interesting. See, because some people are like, I just want to sell books. I don't care. But no, I like that you have that sensitivity to understand and understand who these books are for and who might get the best out of them. Some who might not get the best. Yeah, I like that. I like that you have that approach. That's really good.
Thank you. Because I always believe in doing best for others. And because when you do best for everyone else, then you ultimately just do the best for yourself. And if my work, I'm confident enough in my work to just lose a sale, I guess is the way to put it, because that will actually gain me sales in the future, because that person, even if they didn't buy my other book, they would have said, this author was super cool, and people would have checked me out.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of checking you out, where do we go to do so? Because, that was a good segue, right?
That was a great segue.
Well done, yeah. Where do we go to follow your journey? Because I know, talking to you, you're not done writing at all. So there's a lot more coming down the road. So where do we go? Where do you want to send people?
So Hollis Jo McCollum author.com, and I know that's really long. Hollis Jo McCollum author.com is where you can send people that. That's my website. It pivots to everything. So all of that for social media. I'm really only on Instagram. I do have a Facebook. I don't check it. So my Instagram automatically posts to it, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to get those messages. But I am on Instagram at least once. I check it once a day. I'm very good. So Hollis Jo McCollum for Instagram, and it's my face. So, if you're watching this podcast, you'll recognize me. And that's where I do most everything. And yes, I do have more books coming out. I've got plans. Well, as I told you before, I got plans into like 2030 for book releases.
You have your own library soon.
That's the dream. I think I'm gonna have my because I'm a dancer as well, and I want to have like the book lined, like the super tall book lined walls. Just all the way with a rolling ladder, of course, because that's
gotta have the rolling ladder.
Obviously, that is the symbol of ultimate success in all facets of society. And then in the middle, I would just be an open dance space in my little, in my dream of dreams. This is my when I build my house.
There you go.
I build my dream house, which will not be a large dream house, but the library will be huge.
I love it. Awesome. Hollis, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for taking us on a journey as well as we listen to this and watch this, that, you're so bubbly, and you just bring people in. I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat the whole time listening. So
thank you so much.
I'm excited to see what's new stuff is coming, and I'm excited, and there's lots to celebrate. My encouragement for everyone listening is to buy everything. And when you buy these books, to leave a great review, because I know, Hollis, you'd love to hear from people, right?
I love to hear from people. Yeah. And even if you got the book for free, please review it. And that doesn't just go for me. That goes for all authors.
Right.
Like, we need it. We need reviews. Please.
Yeah, it means a lot. It does. So you gave us your words as an author. We give the words back as readers as we do our reviews. It's kind of how it works. So it's good. Awesome. We'll have everything for Hollis's email and contact information, website, all that information, as always, in the show notes. And again, I encourage everyone to reach out. I think Hollis would love to hear from you, too.
I absolutely would.
When you read, just send a message off. DM, Instagram. Hey, I'm reading. I'm on chapter 3. I'm loving it. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm doing that. And you can email, and there's an email submission form at the bottom of the main page of my website too. So, but yeah, Instagram is probably the most effective, but DM me, even if you just want to ask me a question. I'm happy to say hi. I am very social.
One of the nicest authors you're ever going to fall in love with. So everybody go grab everything, tell 5 friends. I don't know. Buy books and put them on your neighbor's steps. I don't know. Do whatever you want, but
do whatever you want.
Get more of these books sold for all this.
Go shout it through the heavens in the streets. So not late at night. Do it like in the afternoon.
No.
Well,
And again, if you want to, send over a pizza for Hollis, I know she'd love to have that. So
I would be in. Mm-hmm,
there you go. Awesome. Yes. That's good. Hollis, thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it very much. Thanks, Dave.
Really fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5 kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.